Long ago, when the pyramids were still young, Egyptian kings played a game of great and terrible power. One of these kings was the brave young Aten, who willingly allowed his name and memory to be wiped from history to seal away an ancient, evil entity. But how does the story of this king compare to the true Egypt of old? Let us explore this question together.
I've been a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! Ever since I was a teenager. I used to watch it on Kids WB, I got the cards to play with my brother, and I even used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links up until recently. One reason I got so hooked on it was the connection to ancient Egypt. I was, and am, a bit of an Egyptology nerd. I know that Kazuki Takahashi and the anime creators most likely weren't too interested in being faithful to ancient Egypt or its mythology, but it should be fun to look at what they got quote-unquote wrong. So let's go. I thought we should start with one of the most iconic aspects of the titular king of games, his hair. His hair gives him a silhouette that's surprisingly striking for somebody who goes around wearing his uniform everywhere. In ancient Egypt, Atem has the same hair that Yugi does, but he shouldn't. Ancient Egyptian children typically had their hair shaved except for one lock of hair, symbolizing their youth. Adults, on the other hand, kept their hair short, maybe to keep themselves cool and protected from lice. Elites, like priests and royalty, could even afford live-in barbers so that they could keep their hair bald. So Atem would have likely kept his hair short, if not bald. He might wear a wig though, and you could probably argue that the hair we see him have in the show is a wig, but I find it hard to imagine he'd be sleeping in his wig. Dragons. They're a huge part of Yu-Gi-Oh! Two of the god monsters are dragons, in fact. And we can't forget the one that's probably the most famous of them all. But dragons aren't an Egyptian concept, as far as I can tell. Not in the sense of a reptilian beast with legs and wings. Snakes are pretty common though. The chaos deity called Apep is sometimes called a dragon, but I don't know if I would apply that title to him. He was really just a big snake. Based on the existence of the three god monsters, the creatures had a connection with the spirituality and beliefs of the Egyptians, so I don't think there would be any dragons in an ancient Egyptian shadow game. The Millennium items are a source of most of the magic in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. But we're only talking about one in this section, the Millennium Key. The Millennium Key is shaped like an ankh, except that it has a projection at the end making it look like a key that you might have on your keychain right now. Shadi even turns the key to get into Yugi's mind. But that's not how Egyptian keys worked. Egyptian keys were shaped more like this shape on your screen that I don't know how to describe. Instead of turning the key in the lock, Egyptians would pull it to lift the pins up and open the lock. The motion would probably have been less recognizable to a contemporary audience, but it would be more accurate. You may have heard of the Book of the Dead, an ancient Egyptian funerary text. But despite the presence of what we would call books today in Yu-Gi-Oh's ancient Egypt, bound documents with pages you can turn didn't show up until many years after Pharaoh Atem was supposed to have lived. What they would have used are papyri or wooden writing tablets. I suppose the papyrus of Secret Arts doesn't have the same ring to it though. One of the most iconic Yu-Gi-Oh scenes to me is the pharaoh riding on horseback chasing the thief King Bakura. Throughout the ancient Egypt arc of the show, there are lots of characters riding on horseback. However, the Egyptians didn't ride horses as a general rule. Instead, they used them to pull chariots. It's very rare to see any ancient Egyptian depictions of someone on horseback. So no matter how badass Atem looks riding with a giant red dragon at his beck and call, it isn't exactly the most historically accurate image. Yu-Gi-Oh isn't the only Egypt-inspired medium that features reincarnation. The Mummy Returns makes a big deal about Anaxunamun and Nefertiti being reincarnated. In the same way, Ishizu, Yugi's grandfather, and Seto are all reincarnations of people who Atem knew in life, based on the trope of them looking almost identical to their present-day selves. To the ancient Egyptians, time was cyclical, as is demonstrated by the idea of the sun god Ra dying and rising every day. So, for them, eternal life involved being repeatedly reborn. It's easy to misinterpret that as being reborn on Earth, but this was a never-ending cycle of rebirth into the afterlife, not a return to new life on the earthly plane. And last but not least, the names of the ancient Egyptian characters. One interesting decision Kazuki Takahashi made was to give some of these characters Arabic-sounding names rather than Egyptian. For example, Karim and Shada. There's also a Hebrew name, Shimon. For this final section though, I'm going to focus on two names in particular, Isis and Atem, both of which are names of gods. It's not unheard of for ancient Egyptians to have the names of gods incorporated into their names. For example, there is Seti, which means of Set, and Tutankhamun. This practice is called theophory, and is common in other cultures too. However, what I've never heard of is an ancient Egyptian who full-on had the name of a god. Atem's name is apparently taken from an important early god, a creator deity and father of the king, and Isis is the name of the wife of Osiris and father of Horus. If you've ever heard of an ancient Egyptian with the name of a god, let me know in the comments, but I've never seen any example of that. So that's it. There's a lot more I could have discussed when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh's depiction of ancient Egypt, but I'll end right here. Thanks for watching. I've been Ken Kwame, and I'll see you next time.